What we have to ask is what is going to happen? Who's going to be indicted? But what we want to know is anybody going to go to prison? Is anybody going to pay a fine or serve time? So saying all that to say this, is President Obama going to jail? Could you play the clip by Tulsi when the reporter asked her what she thought about the implications of Obama and this whole thing?
The president yesterday, you've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I'm not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
So with all of that being said, you know, and I know your head is spinning right now. You're like, oh my God, David, you just opened a fire hose on me, man. How am I supposed to process all this? Listen, I'm right there with you. I firmly believe that, you know, this is overwhelming to think that our country could be in this particular space or environment. And I'm sorry, man. I really am sorry that you feel like I do. But, you know, if we don't do something about it and it continues, then our country's going to be lost forever. And I hope you feel that way, because I feel that way as well, too. You know, I like I said, I have 4 daughters. Jordy has a newborn daughter. And, you know, I interact with young people all the time. And the imagination that this is the standard for our country is appalling to me. I didn't join the service. I didn't raise my right hand to die for the country for this at all. And so it's up to us. It's up to you. You in your car right now. You at your lunch break right now. You listening to this podcast while you work out. It's up to you to make your voice heard, to demand answers and not to back down, and demand accountability on all of this stuff, whether it's the Epstein files or it's this corruption or it's the land deals. I mean, we literally just saw something revolutionary take place, right? Within the one big, beautiful bill, there was this 7 million acres of land that potentially is going to be sold. And what happened? Braxton McCoy had the gumption, had the strength, had the courage to come up and speak out. And he did. And Sean ended up having him on his show. And then next thing you know, it blew up and they took that out of the vote. There's also the pressure from the Epstein case. Don't stop. Demand that this is exposed. And the same with this. You need to call your congressman. You need to call your senator. You need to slam the White House switchboard, the DOJ, all of it, and make your voice heard that we want accountability. That we have to have accountability. Because if we don't get accountability in all of this, then you know, it's going to be very difficult to recover and to get back to some semblance of a constitutional republic that we believe is what we live in. All right. Now, the challenge is what, Jordy? The challenge is this, all right? I see all over X, all right, this is treason. I put it out, this is treason, period. And someone correct me. Actually, it's sedition, right? And so there are all these debates taking place, right? So what is going to happen? What is the DOJ, right? And I forget what Mike Benz was on Greg Gutfeld last night or night before or something like that. And he said, yeah, this is now the next thing to be placed on the abyss of Pam Bondi's desk and how they're going to prosecute this, right? So what we have to ask is what is going to happen? Who's going to be indicted? But what we want to know is anybody going to go to prison? Is anybody going to pay a fine or serve time? Now, this is what you have to understand. All right. So basically, there's a couple different U.S. laws that potentially are on the table. And this is what I got. It's 18 USC section 241, which is conspiracy against rights. That's it's illegal to conspire to oppress or intimidate someone's constitutional rights, like running for office. Penalties up to 7 years in prison or life if someone dies. 18 USC section 371, conspiracy to defraud the United States, covers schemes to interfere with fair elections, like rigging votes, carries up to 5 years in prison. 18 USC section 1505, obstruction of proceedings, applies to interfering with election investigations or congressional certification, up to 5 years or 8 if tied to terrorism. That's what they were trying to get Trump on January 6th. 18 USC section 595, interference of federal employees, prohibits using official authority to meddle in elections, a misdemeanor up to 1 year in jail. They also tried to use that. 52 USC section 30121, Federal Election Campaign Act, bans soliciting foreign help in elections, like seeking dirt on arrival, fines up to 2 years in prison. That was another one. The Hatch Act, 5 USC section 7323 through 7326, restricts using government resources for partisan campaign activity. Typically involves fines or administrative penalties, right? However, here's a key one in that, because that was used as well against Trump. In the 2020 Trump versus United States ruling, grants presidents immunity for official acts, potentially shielding actions tied to constitutional duties, but unofficial acts like fake electors or violence aren't immune. Now, that's the kicker for President Obama. He can always claim, what? That this was an official act, the investigation. And that's what makes this me not exactly the most positive in terms of the outcome for this, because there are these protections, and the very thing that's Trump, went to court for, his constitutional right in the act to be able to discover what he was trying to discover in the 2020 elections, and that presidential immunity. And that was also within his records, the illegal records case. So saying all that to say this, is President Obama going to jail? Not likely. Is former CIA Director John Brennan going to jail? Not likely. Is former head of the FBI James Comey going to jail? Not likely. Former DNI James Clapper going to jail? Not likely. Former Vice President Joe Biden going to jail? Not likely. Loretta Lynch? Not likely. Susan Rice? Not likely. Not likely. Not likely. So, what we can do is bring it to the courts. What we can do is let the American people see the extent of corruption that was involved in all of these scandals. They can hear the testimony. They can have public hearings. They can put people on the stand that's televised, so we can watch them squirm, plead the fifth, and lie to our faces in order to have a profound impact. However, somebody needs to pay some kind of price. If we don't get this, and if you're in the U.S. government and by random chance you're listening to this, if you're driving and you pay attention and you're in the government, you're listening to this, if we don't get some type of conviction, then the future, in my opinion, is in profound jeopardy for the American public.